screw up her hair. You just tease it and make it look like a brown football helmet.
Steel Magnolias isn't just the heartbreaking story of Shelby and her fiercely devoted mother. It hides secrets far darker than anyone expected. Some of what happened behind the scenes was so intense, it nearly changed the film forever, and almost didn't make it to the screen. What real-life tragedy did the movie recreate with chilling accuracy? And what really happened behind the scenes that audiences were never meant to know? Join us as we uncover 15 verified secrets that prove Steel Magnolias is far tougher and far more haunting than it looks. Number 15. The real-life tragedy that inspired the script. Many might know that playwright Robert Harling wrote the original stage play for Steel Magnolias as a direct response to a devastating family tragedy, the death of his younger sister, Susan Robert Robinson. But only a few understood the context of the title. In 1985, Susan, a type 1 diabetic since the age of 12, died from complications following a kidney transplant, a kidney that their own mother had donated. The transplant failed, and Susan left behind a 2-year-old son, Robert's nephew. Overwhelmed with grief, Robert initially struggled to even speak about the loss, let alone process it. It was a close friend who suggested that writing might give him a way to confront the pain without being consumed by it. What started as a short personal piece to preserve Susan's memory quickly turned into something much larger, a stage play that didn't just mourn her death, but celebrated the vibrant, complicated, and fiercely loving woman she had been. Robert has said the words poured out of him in just 10 days, as a 24/7 tsunami of southernness. That speed wasn't accidental. It reflected how close the material was to him. The dialogue, the rhythms, even the humor, all came directly from lived experience. Many of the characters were composites of real women in Susan's life, capturing not just their personalities, but their coping mechanisms: sarcasm, gossip, stubbornness, and above all, resilience. The title itself came from a common Southern phrase describing women who are delicate on the outside but unbreakable on the inside, something Robert felt perfectly captured his sister's spirit. That duality, fragility paired with strength, became the emotional backbone of the story. But how did Robert translate his sister's real-life personality into one of the film's most hilarious and cathartic moments, where Malin finally snaps at the grumpy Weezer? Number 14. A secret from the script. The script for Steel Magnolias is filled with often hilarious dialogue, but one of the most memorable comedic ones was not invented at all. When playwright Robert Harling hit a patch of writer's block while writing the script, he asked himself a simple question: what would Susan do? The answer, he knew, would be outrageous and completely inappropriate and totally out of the box. This moment of inspiration led to the scene at Shelby's funeral, where Malin is distraught, and Clary cheekily suggests she take out her grief by hitting the perpetually grumpy Weezer. The resulting line, "Here, hit this," and the subsequent chase scene provide a moment of perfect comedic relief in an otherwise devastating sequence. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated Susan shining through.
50 pounds of crab claws.
Oh, but the making up can be so romantic.
Robert has said that his sister was exactly the type of person who would have done something shocking to break the tension at a funeral. This blend of tragedy and laughter became the film's signature. But Robert didn't just infuse the script with his sister's spirit. He also insisted on absolute authenticity in the film's setting. What specific demand did Robert make about where the movie would be filmed, and how did that decision bring real-life witnesses of Susan's story onto the set? Number 13. Filming in the real Natchitoches. To ensure authenticity, Robert insisted that the film be shot in his actual hometown of Natchitoches, Louisiana. Producer Ray Stark agreed, and this decision proved crucial to the film's grounded, lived-in feeling. Furthermore, Robert himself makes a cameo in the film, playing the minister who officiates Shelby's wedding and later her funeral. It was his way of being present for his sister's fictional journey, an act of love woven into the movie. The streets of Natchitoches became a second home to the cast, and the town embraced the production. This authenticity extended to the casting of the beauty shop owner, Truvy. The most iconic scenes were filmed at the Cook-Taylor house near downtown Natchitoches, a historical home built sometime prior to the 1840s that allegedly served as a hospital during the Civil War. Because of the success of the movie, the Cook-Taylor House is now referred to as the Steel Magnolia House and has been converted into a bed and breakfast. But before Dolly Parton was ever offered the role, another actress had already made it famous on stage. Who was that original Truvy, and why did the studio ultimately decide to replace her for the film? Number 12. The star who almost wasn't. Before Dolly Parton brought Truvy to life on the silver screen, the role originated on stage by acclaimed character actress Margot Martindale. The original off-Broadway production of Steel Magnolias opened at the WPA Theater in New York City on March 28, 1987, with Martindale playing the wisecracking salon owner. The production was a massive success, eventually moving to the larger Lucille Lortel Theater for a lengthy run. When it came time to cast the film adaptation, Martindale was understandably hopeful. After all, she had helped shape the character from the very beginning. But then, the studio decided to go in a different direction. To ensure the film's financial success, they wanted a major star with box office appeal. That star was Dolly Parton. Dolly's casting was a masterstroke, as her comedic timing and warmth became synonymous with the role, earning her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Margot Martindale, though disappointed, continued her path to becoming one of Hollywood's most respected character actors.
Good, I buy, size 8.
They're 8.5.
Perfect.
Lord, give us strength.
Winning multiple Emmys. Once Dolly was cast, she brought her legendary professionalism to the sweltering Louisiana set. What was it about Dolly Parton's attitude in the brutal summer heat that left Julia Roberts speechless and changed her own outlook on complaining? Number 11. Dolly's unshakable cool. The film was shot in Natchitoches during the brutal heat of July and August. The cast and crew were wilting, with many having to put ice on their wrists to stay cool. Shirley MacLaine recalled that most of the cast were always complaining about the heat, yet Dolly Parton never uttered a single word of complaint. This puzzled her co-star, Julia Roberts. Julia recalled finally asking Dolly to just say it was hot. Dolly's response left Julia speechless. Dolly simply and serenely replied that when she was a little girl, she wanted to be famous and she wanted to be rich. And now she was both of these things. She wasn't going to complain about it. Her comment had a profound impact on Julia, who has said she thinks of it every time she is about to complain. Dolly's unshakable cool showed her humble beginnings and her gratitude for the life she built. But Dolly didn't spend all her time on set. After a long day of filming, she had a ritual that became a local sensation. Where did Dolly Parton and her famous entourage go to eat every single night of the shoot, causing the small-town restaurant to be completely sold out? Number 10. Where Dolly Parton ate dinner. When the cast of Steel Magnolias descended upon the small town of Natchitoches, Louisiana, they needed places to eat and relax. For Dolly Parton, the choice was clear. Every night Dolly, along with her entourage, which included an assistant, a bodyguard, and a hairstylist, would dine at the same spot, a seafood restaurant called Mariners Out on Sibley Lake. This nightly ritual had an incredible effect on the local business. According to resident Tom Whitehead, the restaurant was sold out for the whole of the shoot as people filled it up to see Dolly Parton eating in the back corner. The owner, Don Nichols, recalled numerous nights where Dolly gave impromptu performances, even lip-syncing into a beer bottle. She was not just a celebrity visitor. She became part of the town's fabric for those summer months. While Dolly was the life of the party at Mariners, other cast members were experiencing their own intense off-screen drama. The chemistry between two young leads was not just for the camera. What real-life romantic relationship blossomed between Julia Roberts and one of her co-stars? And how did it mirror the film's themes of love and heartbreak? Number 9. The real-life romantic drama. In Steel Magnolias, Julia Roberts' Shelby marries Dylan McDermott's Jackson. Off-screen, their chemistry was not just an act. At the start of filming, Julia was reportedly dating actor Liam Neeson. However, the intense atmosphere of the set in Natchitoches brought her closer to McDermott. The two began a real-life romance that quickly became serious, with reports of an engagement emerging around 1990. They were a golden couple. She was the rising star from Mystic Pizza, and he was a handsome, up-and-coming actor. Their relationship was a hot topic for gossip columns, blending the lines between real and real life. However, the fairy tale was short-lived. After the film wrapped, Julia moved on to her next project, Flatliners, where she met actor Kiefer Sutherland. The romance with McDermott fizzled.
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
And the engagement was eventually called off. The public drama was so different to the deep, platonic bonds portrayed in the film. While the romantic tension was high off-screen, a different kind of tension dominated the set as the cast faced a formidable foe in the form of their own director. If Julia Roberts' real-life love life was making headlines, what was happening on set that was causing her to break down in tears, and which co-star stepped in to protect her? Number 8. A cast of real-life protectors. Director Herbert Ross was known throughout Hollywood for his exacting and often abrasive directing style. On the set of Steel Magnolias, that reputation became a reality, particularly for the youngest member of the main cast, Julia Roberts. At just 21 years old, and still relatively new to major productions, Julia found herself under intense scrutiny. Herbert's criticisms were not subtle. He reportedly pushed her hard, sometimes publicly, questioning her delivery and emotional range. For a young actress stepping into such a high-profile ensemble, the pressure was immense, and at times, overwhelming. There were moments when the criticism reduced her to tears, threatening to shake her confidence during what should have been a breakthrough role. But what Herbert may not have fully anticipated was the dynamic of the cast he was working with. This was not a group that would quietly observe. Veterans like Shirley MacLaine and Sally Field had both the experience and the authority to push back, and they did. In her memoir, The Wall of Life, Shirley described how the tension reached a breaking point. She directly confronted Herbert, telling him he had been behaving badly, even linking his behavior to unresolved grief over the death of his first wife, Nora Kay. It was a bold, deeply personal confrontation, one that cut through the power dynamics on set. That moment shifted the atmosphere. Alongside Sally and the rest of the cast, Shirley helped establish an unspoken rule. Julia would not be isolated or bullied. From that point on, the younger actress had a protective circle around her, one that mirrored the very themes the film was exploring. This wasn't just professional courtesy, it became something closer to familial loyalty. The women began to function as a unit, reinforcing each other emotionally both on and off camera. That solidarity is part of why their on-screen chemistry feels so authentic. It wasn't manufactured, it was lived. Despite the difficult environment, Julia rose to the occasion, delivering a performance that was both vulnerable and magnetic. It earned her an Academy Award nomination and marked the beginning of her ascent to global stardom. One of the most legendary names in Hollywood history was desperate to be in the film. Which screen legend lobbied aggressively for a role? And which parts did she imagine for Elizabeth Taylor and Katharine Hepburn? Number 7. Bette Davis's campaign for a Weezer. Before Shirley MacLaine was cast as the delightfully grumpy Weezer Boudreaux, one of the most legendary actresses in Hollywood history was actively campaigning for the role, Bette Davis. Bette had seen the off-Broadway play and immediately began pushing to be cast in the film adaptation. She was 80 years old at the time and eager to show she was still a vital force in the industry. Robert has recalled that Bette unexpectedly rang him up one day and invited him to tea to discuss the possibility. Bette did not stop with herself. She also suggested that Katharine Hepburn would make a fantastic Clary, the role that went to Olympia Dukakis, and that Elizabeth Taylor would be perfect as Truvy, Dolly Parton's part. Bette even warned Robert that if he gave the role to someone else, they would hear from her. Despite her aggressive lobbying, Bette was not cast. Producer Ray Stark thought the heat and humidity of the Louisiana summer set would have been too much for her. Bette died of breast cancer at age 81, just a month before the film's release. While Bette's Hollywood royalty was campaigning for a role, another actress on the other side of her career trajectory had to fight just to audition for a part that the director thought was beneath her. Which rising star had to beg the director to let her read for the part of Annelle, and how did she make herself unrecognizable to get the job? Number 6. Daryl Hannah's audition transformation. Daryl Hannah was already a rising star thanks to films like Splash and Blade Runner when she was offered a role in Steel Magnolias. However, the role she was offered was not the one she wanted. Director Herbert Ross initially wanted Hannah to play Shelby, the part that would make Julia Roberts a superstar. Hannah was not interested. She told Herbert she didn't see herself playing the role and begged to be allowed to audition for the part of Annelle, the soft-spoken, shy beauty school graduate who finds religion over the course of the film. Herbert was reluctant, but Hannah persisted. When she went to the audition, she transformed herself completely. She styled her hair to look like the aspiring hairdresser character and wore her own oversized glasses. The effect was so complete that when she walked into the room, Herbert did not recognize her. Hannah recalled how she loved that feeling of being able to change into someone else. Herbert had originally told Hannah she was too attractive to play the mousy, insecure Annelle. Her audition transformation proved him wrong. The security guard at the studio reportedly didn't recognize her either and initially refused to let her in. Hannah later said that the experience of working with Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, and Olympia Dukakis was transformative for her as well. She told People magazine that it was the first time she'd ever really experienced women who were supportive and encouraging rather than competitive and vicious. The ensemble cast's support for one another helped make the film a classic. How did Sally Field's portrayal of Malin's grief help Robert Harling's own mother find closure after the death of her daughter? Number 5. Sally Field's personal healing through performance. The emotional centerpiece of Steel Magnolias is the cemetery scene, where Sally Field's character, Malin, finally breaks down after the death of her daughter. The raw, ugly grief displayed by Sally in that moment was so powerful that director Herbert Ross decided to film it in a single, unbroken take. But the emotion was not just acting. Sally's performance was also a source of deep healing for Robert's own mother, who had lost her real daughter. Robert recalled that his mother insisted on staying on set while the death scene was being filmed, despite his attempts to have her leave. She explained that she needed to see Julia Roberts, who had played her daughter on screen, get up and walk away after the director yelled cut. For Robert's mother, watching the fictional death play out and then seeing the actress rise again was a cathartic experience that provided a form of closure her real life had not. The film's emotional honesty resonated not only with the Robert family, but also with millions of moviegoers. During the wedding scene of the movie, one cake stood out, and it wasn't even a prop. So what exactly was it? Number 4. The armadillo cake's real origins. One of the most memorable visual gags in Steel Magnolias is the armadillo-shaped groom's cake at Shelby's wedding reception. As Clary famously declares, "The groom's cake looks like an armadillo," to which Malin responds, "Well, the groom's from Texas." The cake's red velvet interior creates a darkly comic moment when the neighbor, annoyed at the father of the bride, cuts off the animal's tail and hands it to him. But this bizarre cake was not a Hollywood invention. Robert Harling has confirmed that the armadillo cake was a real feature of his sister Susan's wedding. The screenwriter took the stage during a 25th anniversary performance to explain how closely the story follows his family, stating plainly that there was an armadillo groom's cake. The cake was designed to be a nod to the groom's unusual profession of working in a slaughterhouse, and the red velvet filling was meant to represent the blood of the animal. The film's production designer was directed to the actual baker in Natchitoches, who had made the original cake for Susan's wedding. The baker reportedly made several test armadillo cakes for cutting tests, just to make sure the deep red cake batter color, after baking, was indeed red. The scene has had an unexpected culinary legacy. The New York Times credited Robert with the revival of red velvet cake, which he has called one of my great life achievements. Southern brides are actually serving guests the armadillo cake from Steel Magnolias at their weddings, turning a once bizarre prop into a genuine trend. This commitment to authenticity extended far beyond the cake. Robert didn't just want the props to be real, he wanted his own presence to be felt in the film. Where did Robert Harling appear on screen, and what was his specific role in the movie? Number 3. Robert Harling's cameo as the minister. The playwright who turned his personal tragedy into a beloved classic didn't just write the script and step away. Robert Harling appears on screen in Steel Magnolias in a small but significant role, the minister who officiates both Shelby's wedding and her funeral. This cameo was a deeply personal decision for Robert. By placing himself at the center of the story's two most pivotal moments, the joyful beginning of Shelby's marriage and the devastating end of her life, Robert was, in a sense, giving his sister Susan a ceremonial farewell and a ceremonial blessing all at once. He later said that playing the minister allowed him to be present for his sister's fictional journey in a way that felt meaningful to him. Robert also insisted that the film be shot in his actual hometown of Natchitoches, Louisiana, which he called gorgeous, adding that anywhere one point the camera would definitely be a good shot. The commitment to authenticity paid off, giving the film a grounded, lived-in feeling that has helped it endure for decades. The casting process for the film included some surprising near misses, but to what extent did Robert go in seeking perfection that even the cast members didn't know? Number 2. Robert used the real hospital and the real medical team. When filming the hospital scenes where Shelby lies in a diabetic coma and later flatlines, the production did not build a fake hospital set. Instead, they filmed at an actual hospital in Shreveport, Louisiana, approximately 70 miles from Natchitoches. But more importantly, the doctors and nurses seen rushing into Shelby's room and performing CPR were not actors. Robert Harling had arranged for the real medical professionals who had cared for his sister Susan during her final illness to appear as extras. These were the same nurses who had held Susan's hand, the same doctors who had delivered the devastating news that her kidney transplant was failing. They agreed to participate as a way of honoring their former patient. The lead nurse in the scene, the one who calls out medical codes and directs the resuscitation attempt, was a woman named Brenda. She had been Susan's primary nurse during her last hospitalization. Robert later said that Brenda's tears in the scene were completely real. She was not acting. She was reliving the night Susan died. The production did not tell the other cast members about this. Julia Roberts, who played Shelby, lying motionless on the gurney, later admitted that she felt a strange energy in the room during those takes. She later said in an interview that she didn't know the nurses were the actual nurses in Susan's case, and it made her feel like she had a responsibility to get it right. The authenticity of that scene is one reason the film's medical tragedy feels so unshakably real. Robert's insistence on involving the real people from his sister's life extended to other details as well. The hospital room number, the type of IV drip shown on camera, and even the brand of orange juice Shelby drinks before collapsing. All were exact recreations of Susan's final days. This commitment to truth is what elevates Steel Magnolias from a sentimental weepy to a genuine work of art. It is a film built not on Hollywood fabrication, but on the painful, beautiful, and ultimately life-affirming memory of one woman who died too young. Yet given its heavy subject matter, few expected it to become a financial powerhouse. How much money did Steel Magnolias ultimately earn? And what did its box office success mean for female-led Hollywood films? Number 1. A box office smash on a modest budget. Steel Magnolias was a major financial success, but it wasn't a blockbuster in the modern sense. Produced on a relatively modest budget for a star-driven film, it earned an impressive $5.4 million during its opening weekend. This strong debut was a clear signal that the film's mix of humor and heartbreak had found its audience. By the end of its theatrical run, the film had grossed nearly $84 million domestically. This financial performance was particularly notable given the film's subject matter. A story centered on middle-aged women and grief could have been a difficult sell, but the star power of Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, and the rising appeal of Julia Roberts proved irresistible to audiences. The success also launched Julia into the Hollywood stratosphere. Her performance earned her a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, the film's sole nomination. The film's profitability and critical respect helped to cement its status as a classic and paved the way for more ensemble-driven, female-led stories in Hollywood. Steel Magnolias proved that stories about women's lives, their friendships, and their grief could be both artistically profound and commercially viable. That legacy continues to this day. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Do you think that Susan's life was perfectly portrayed by the movie? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.